So when a crime is committed, there's this absolute flood of details that comes out. But in the eyes of the law, which of those details actually matter? Today, we're going to deconstruct how a legal case is really built, fact by crucial fact, and see how a compelling story for the courtroom actually comes together.
Right, I want you to imagine you're a detective. You've just arrived at a crime scene. You are surrounded by information. I mean, everything: footprints, whispers, complicated relationships, weird coincidences. So how do you separate the signal from all that noise? How do you figure out which tiny piece of information is going to be the key that just unlocks the entire case?
Well, it turns out there's a legal framework that's designed for this exact problem. You can find it in Section 5 of India's Sakshya Adhiniyam. This law basically guides the courts on what evidence is truly relevant. Think of it like a filter, a system for turning a chaotic mess of details into a story that actually makes sense.
And what's so brilliant about this section of the law is that it doesn't just give you some vague philosophical definition. No, instead, it groups all the facts that could possibly be relevant into 5 very distinct categories. You can think of them as the 5 essential ingredients you need to build a really compelling legal argument.
So here they are, the 5 pillars: occasion, cause, effect, opportunity, and the state of things. Now, each one of these plays a really unique role in painting the full picture of what happened. We're going to break down every single one, but first, let's tackle the 2 that seem to cause the most confusion. That's right, occasion and opportunity. They sound kind of similar, don't they? But in the eyes of the law, the difference between them is absolutely critical. Honestly, people mix these up all the time, but if you stick with me, I promise, by the end of this bit, the distinction is going to be crystal clear. To make this all feel a bit more real, let's work through a hypothetical case. I want you to picture a big, bustling fair. Lots of lights, sounds, people everywhere. And in the middle of all this, a man becomes the victim of a robbery. We're going to use this scenario to see our 5 pillars in action. Okay, so let's walk through the timeline. First, our guy is at this crowded fair. He's got a lot of cash on him, and he's even told a few people about it. Now, this whole setup, the crowded place, the fact that people know he has money, that creates the occasion. It's the general set of circumstances that makes a crime like this even possible. But then, boom, the lights go out. That sudden, specific moment of darkness, that is the opportunity. It's the perfect, fleeting window for someone to make their move. So here's the bottom line. The occasion is the general environment. A girl being alone in a cottage, that's the occasion. The opportunity, on the other hand, is the specific trigger. Finding the door to that same cottage unlocked, that's the opportunity. You see the difference? The first one creates the potential for a crime, but the second one provides the direct chance to actually do it. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This comes directly from landmark legal cases. In the famous case of R versus Richardson, the court specifically ruled that the victim being alone in her cottage was a relevant fact precisely because it created the occasion for the crime. It set the stage and made the whole act possible. All right, now that we've totally nailed down the difference between occasion and opportunity, let's keep going. It's time to see how the other 3 categories, cause, effect, and state of things, add even more layers and depth to our investigation. Next up is cause, and this one is pretty straightforward. It's all about the why. What's the motive here? For example, if a suspect was known to be in desperate need of money, well, that fact establishes a potential cause for them to commit a robbery, right? It's the piece of the puzzle that connects their personal situation directly to the crime itself. Then we have the effect. This is literally what's left behind, the physical aftermath of the act. We're talking about things like footprints, fingerprints, or maybe bloodstains at the scene. Remember that R versus Richardson case? Well, the court also looked at footprints that had these distinct nails in the soles found right outside the cottage. That wasn't just a random detail. It was a direct effect of the crime, physically linking the suspect to the scene. And finally, we have the state of things. The easiest way to think about this is as the backstory, the context of the relationships between everyone involved. Was there an old rivalry, a troubled marriage? In another big case, Raton versus Queen, a husband claimed he shot his wife by accident. But evidence showed that their marriage was deeply unhappy, and he was actually having an affair. The court said this was super relevant because it established a state of things that made his whole "oops, it was an accident" story a lot less believable. Okay, so we've got our 5 pillars. We understand what they are. Now let's go back to our robbery at the fair and see how all of these concepts come together to turn what seems like a collection of random facts into a powerful, logical story. And this is where the magic happens. Look at how it all falls into place. The occasion, a man with a ton of cash at a busy fair. The opportunity, a sudden, chaotic power outage. The cause, let's say we find out there was an old debt between the victim and a suspect. The effect, maybe a button was torn from the robber's shirt and left behind in the struggle. And the state of things, a known history of rivalry between them. All of a sudden, these random details aren't random at all. They tell a very clear story. So you see what's happening here. The big takeaway is that this legal framework gives lawyers and judges a structure for storytelling. It's a method to organize the evidence, to show not just what happened, but how it happened and why. By focusing only on what's truly relevant, you can turn a jumble of confusing details into a logical, compelling case. It makes sure the verdict is based on a coherent story, not just on random noise.
And honestly, this way of thinking is so powerful, you can use it way beyond the courtroom. It really makes you wonder, what are the occasions, opportunities, causes, and effects that are playing out all around us every single day? And which seemingly small, irrelevant detail in your own life might just be the key to a much bigger story?